This is episode 3 of the We Will Beat IBD podcast. My name is Brian Greenberg, founder of the Intestines Foundation, fellow IBDer and Ostomate. My goal is to help others with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and ostomies. Together, I believe we could do amazing things. Together, we will beat IBD. Let today's show begin. Hello, my fellow IBD and Ostomy family members. Welcome to the third episode of the We Will Beat IBD podcast. Today, I am very excited to talk about a topic which is very close to my heart and something that I'm very passionate about, and that is exercising with an IBD and or ostomy. This is something I've been doing for years, and if exercise wasn't a part of my life, I'm not really sure where I would be. And I know a lot of other IBDers and ostomates have asked me how I've done it before. So I just want to share some personal stories with you today and some tips that have kind of helped me throughout the years and allowed me to stay in the gym, train outside, and do everything with a comfortable mindset, knowing that no matter what happens, I'll be all right. So one of the first questions that a lot of fellow IBDers and ostomates ask me is, how do I do it? How do I get out of bed in the morning? How do I fight the fatigue? And I'll be honest, every morning I wake up, my hands hurt me. If I wanted to, I can crack my knuckles right this second. All my joints hurt, and it takes my stomach a little while to get going as well. And, I battle fatigue every day like a lot of other Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis patients do as well. And it's tough, but one of the things that I find really gets me out of bed every morning and motivates me is having a goal. You need to have a goal in mind. You need to have something to think about. And when you have that goal, it's going to allow you to have motivation in the morning to fight that fatigue. You're going to have a reason to get out of bed more. And, the goals can change from person to person, but I'll give you an example of some of my goals. Late 2014, I had a proctectomy, which is a really, really difficult surgery to recover from. For those of you who don't know what a proctectomy is, it's the removal of your rectum, and it's a pretty tough surgery because they have to go in through your stomach and abdominal wall to release the muscle from the top, and then after they release the muscle to the top, that's when they remove the rectum from behind and have a very big incision back there as well. So you have incisions on both sides, and for a while I was just laying on my side. There was nothing more that I can do. But as soon as I started to feel a little bit more energy, I started to think about what my goals could be. And after my surgery, my first goal was just get out of bed. Get that first step out of bed and walk around the house a little bit. Once I was comfortable walking around the house, I made my second goal, and that was to get out of bed, walk around the house, and make my own first meal. And once I did that, my next goal was to walk around the neighborhood with my dogs. And from there, I hit each and every goal. It's very important to not start your goals too high, because if after my surgery I stated a goal as, well, I want to complete a marathon, obviously that's not going to happen right away. And each day I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be a little bit down because I'm not going to reach my goal. It's going to be tough. It's going to be so far in the distance that I can't make any real progress to get there. But if I set my goals just to get out of bed, just to make my own meal, just to walk around the neighborhood, then maybe go for a longer walk or hang out with my friends, etc. It's easy to hit those goals, and then as you go forward, you're going to be happy, you're going to feel better about yourself because you're not just waking up every morning with a goal in mind that is so difficult to reach. So for me, what motivates me is setting small goals, reaching those goals, and then going from there. And that'll allow you to fight the fatigue. That'll give you a reason to go a little bit more. And like I said, once you start reaching the small goals, extend them further and further out, but you're going to be excited like me. I remember the first time that I got out of bed after my proctectomy surgery, and I walked in the kitchen and made a grilled cheese. Probably one of the easiest things somebody can make, but I did it myself, and it was a goal that I set out and I reached. So set small goals, try to reach them, and when you reach them, set another goal and another goal and another goal, and take it step by step, because no matter what you're going to do, you want to set a goal that's too far in the future, that's too hard to reach. So at this point, I'm motivated. I've gotten out of bed. I've recovered from my surgery a little bit. What's next? And for me, this is always an interesting conversation that I have to have with my surgeons and doctors, because they know I love to be in the gym. I love to be active. I love to train for whatever my goal might be. And I always ask my doctors first. And I remember my surgeon in Stanford, Dr. Littlejohn, every time I always ask him, he kind of shakes his head and goes, "It's that time again, right?" And I said, "Yep, I'm starting to get a little antsy. I really want to get back into the gym. Is it okay?" And, we always discuss what's going on with my body and what I can and can't do. For example, after the proctectomy surgery, I had an open wound on my backside that was healing. It wasn't bleeding anymore, it wasn't draining that much anymore, but it was still there. So I made a plan with Dr. Littlejohn to obviously not do much lower body, not do any lower body, I should say, not get on the bike, etc., etc. He gave me a very strict regimen of saying, Brian, you're able to get into the gym, but you can only work out upper body with machines. And that's what I did. There's no reason to go from 0 to 100 miles per hour with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or working out with an ostomy as well. Take it slow. Get into the gym after whatever just happened. Maybe it be a flare, maybe it be a surgery, and go step by step as well. Just like I set goals for getting out of bed after my surgery, I then set small goals for the gym. Okay, I'm going to start with machines and take it very slow with light weight. Then maybe I'll go to another machine and figure out, a little bit more weight and a little bit more movement. There's no need to rush. After that, I said, okay, my backside's feeling pretty good. I'll do a little bit of cardio. I'll get on an elliptical, which is low impact. It's very easy. It won't stretch the muscles too much in my backside. So I was able to reach these goals, and slowly I reach up more and more stamina and more strength to be able to do more and more in the gym. So take it slow. But one thing that I will definitely urge all Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis patients and ostomy patients as well is to not go by the adage, no pain, no gain. That doesn't apply to us. If you're working to failure and you are hurting yourself so much, there might be something that happens that's going to give you a very large setback. So like I've said before, take it slow. Don't work to failure. Work at a very low weight or very low distance if you're doing cardio, and go from there. Don't listen to the adage, no pain, no gain, because if that happens and you work out too hard, you're going to take steps backwards, and then you might end up at your doctor's, or worse, the hospital. And after you've taken it slow for a little while, there's no reason not to start training for real. If you have a goal in mind, if it's a half Ironman or a half marathon or hiking a certain peak, once you feel well enough and you get clearance from your doctor that everything's healed up, that you're feeling well, the flare might be over, that's when you could start to widen the range of machines, widen the range of movements, and really get into the heart of your training to reach your goal. But once again, I suggest that you take it slow, step by step, machines, then cardio, then maybe real training once you get really comfortable, and then set a bigger goal. At this point, you want to say to yourself, I've gained some strength, I've battled the fatigue, I'm feeling good, my muscles are moving, my body's moving. What kind of goal can I set for myself now? Okay, you've worked out in the gym, you're feeling good now, you've recovered from surgery or flare, and you want to get outside. It's beautiful out, you see all your friends outside, you see all the cyclists and the runners and everything, and you say, man, I'd really like to be able to enjoy that as well. What do I do to prepare to work out outside? And that key word that I just said, prepare, is what is most important. You need to make sure that you have everything ready to go before you start working out outside. And also you need to feel right before you start working outside. If your body is saying no, don't try to push it too much. There's always another day. There's always another time that you can get outside. But if you're feeling ready for it, my first set of advice is to get everything ready the night before. If you look at my living room before I go out for a very long bike ride, and I know that's what I'm going to be doing, or if I'm going out for a very long hike, my living room floor is covered. I have my hiking bag or my cycling bag. I have all equipment that I might need for the day. I have my hydration. I have my food. I have everything ready, laid out, so then I have a really clear idea of what I have ready and what I might need. So prepare is the biggest thing you have to do when you're working outside. Make sure that you're ready to go and you have everything. And once you're prepared and you know you have everything ready to go, that's when you need to figure out, okay, how hard is my workout going to be, or how hard is my activity going to be? You want to have an idea in mind on what your ride might be, what your run might be, what your hike might be, because you don't want to get to that destination, start the activity that you're doing, and then all of a sudden look straight up at a steep hill. So research what you might be getting yourself into, because that might change what you might need to pack. It also might change your idea of what you might need to do. So know how hard you'll be working out, research where you'll be going, and then figure things out from there. Now that you know where you're going, you knowing how hard you're going to work out, you know your activity, the next thing that I always try to prepare to an nth degree is my hydration and nutrition. It's very important for us as Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis patients and ostomy patients to know what nutrition and hydration we might need because our bodies demand more. We're not taking in all the nutrients that a normal healthy person is taking in. We're not taking in all the hydration that a normal bottle of water is taking in for a healthy person. So my theory between these two things, hydration and nutrition, is to always pack for at least an extra hour or two for whatever activity you'll be doing. So if you plan on doing a 3-hour bike ride, pack an extra hour or two of water and nutrition. If you plan on doing an 8-hour hike, plan on bringing an extra hour or two of nutrition. This way, if there's ever an emergency, if anything happens, you have an extra banana or something you can eat that'll hold you over until you get things figured out. Or if you get dehydrated, you'll have an extra bottle of water that you can drink until you figure things out. So I always pack an extra bottle of water, an extra protein shake, and an extra emergency packet, which has hydration and vitamins, nutrients, minerals, everything the body needs basically in a short period of time to stay hydrated. So I always bring those and make sure I have enough just in case anything goes wrong, so I'm always prepared for an emergency situation. Obviously, when you're getting outside, the word emergency is not something you want to hear, but it's something we always need to be prepared for. And a lot of people ask me, Brian, when you're going out on a bike ride, what do you bring with you? If you're going out for a hike, what do you bring with you? And I don't bring a lot of stuff. I try to keep it to a minimum because the more weight you're carrying when you're training outside, the harder it is, especially if you're running, you don't have much room to bring things. But if I'm doing an activity where I'm really nervous about possible things happening, there are 4 things that I always bring with me. One is ostomy supplies. I have an ostomy, so if I'm going for a bike ride or a hike or something that's an entire day, I always make sure I have an extra change of ostomy. This way, if anything goes wrong, I could take my ostomy off if I have a leak, slap a new one on, and continue the day. There's no worrying. There's not anything to be really concerned about. I know that I'm prepared in case a leak happens. The second thing I bring is an insurance card. You always want to have this on you, especially if you're going far away from your home area, because if anything were to happen, you want that hospital to know your information and know that you're going to be covered properly. So I always throw my insurance card into my pack or into the back of my saddle for a cycle. Third thing I bring is a credit or debit card. Hopefully you won't need this, but in case anything happens and there is an emergency situation and you need to buy extra supplies or extra water or extra nutrition, you want to be able to run into a store really quickly, swipe a credit or debit card, and know that you'll have the supplies or anything else that you might need. Lastly, I bring a small amount of medication with me. If an emergency does happen and I get really nauseous or I'm in pain, I want to have a small amount of medication on me just in case it takes a while to get the situation figured out, in case it takes a while for paramedics to get to me or anything like that. So I always bring a few pills for nausea and a few pain pills just in case to have on me in the emergency situation, so then I'm prepared for that and I don't have to sit for hours and hours in pain or being nauseous while we figure out the situation. So these are the 4 things that I bring with me whenever I train outside. Sometimes I don't ostomy change when I run, but I do at longer times. And like I said, just make sure when you're training outside, prepare. Make sure you have everything with you, because if you don't, you're going to have that feeling in the back of your mind, what happens if something goes wrong? Make sure you're ready for anything. Bring as much as you can with you and feel comfortable about what you're doing, and know that if anything does go wrong, you're going to be okay. You have every I dotted and every T crossed, and everything will work out and you'll be fine. So now you're taking a big step. You're ready to go outside. You're ready to train. You've really gotten into a little bit of a rhythm, but every once in a while you're going to get a mental hurdle that comes your way. And I get asked a lot, Brian, what do you do when you have these mental hurdles that come into play that you just can't get out of your mind? First thing I always do is before I go out for my activity, whether it be hiking, cycling, a kayak ride, a run, I always try to get excited about what's ahead. Enjoy the days that you're able to do these things, because we don't get to do them every single day. A healthy person can go out for a run 365 days a year if they're well enough and they don't have anything to worry about. As Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and ostomy patients, we might not have 365 days a year to go out and do the activities we love. So if you're training for something and you have a goal, get excited about what you're about to do and cherish that day. Live it to the most and get out there and enjoy the activity. Next thing I do after I get really excited and I try to get through that mental hurdle is I think about what it would be like to reach my goal. What am I going to feel like after I finish a 40-mile bike ride, or if I get to a peak of a hike, or I walk around the neighborhood after a surgery? What's it going to feel like to get back to home and know that you reached your goal, you did what you set out to do, and you didn't let your Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or ostomy keep you from doing that? And one thing that I like to do once I reach those goals is celebrate. You should celebrate reaching your goal each and every time, whether it be getting out of bed after a surgery or flare, just walking around the house, making your own meal, walking around the neighborhood with a dog or a pet, or just walking by yourself or with friends. Celebrate each and every one of these goals, whether they be small goals or big goals. You've reached them, and these things aren't necessarily easy for us. Getting out of bed after a surgery and making your own first meal is not that easy. So celebrate it, feel good about yourself, and make sure when you hit these milestones along the way, whether they be very small in your head or very big, celebrate them. Enjoy the fact that you did what you set out to do. You showed your Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or ostomy who's boss, and you did a good job. And I just touched on something that I think is really important to do also, and that is share your goals and share when you cross the finish line for those goals with your friends and family and all the others who support you. It's very motivating to me to know that my support network is excited when I start to do things after a surgery or a flare. I post about them on social media. I see them in person. I say, hey, things haven't been that easy lately, but I got up and I walked around the neighborhood with my dog today. I walked 2 miles or whatever it might be. They're excited to hear that. They're excited for me to not let my Crohn's disease or your ulcerative colitis or ostomy keep you from doing something. So share those goals with your friends, however it may be, and they're going to be excited to pat you on the back. And even though these goals might sound small to other people, they realize that IBD and an ostomy can keep someone from doing a lot of things. And when you share them, whether it be a phone call or in person, they're going to be excited for you. They're going to be happy that you were able to have these goals, reach them, and cross that finish line. So share them with your friends, and don't be nervous about telling them what your small goal might be, because if you have a really good support network around you, they're going to be happy for you that you reach these milestones. So I always love to share my goals with my friends. I post about them on social media even before I complete them. And then when I share, hey, look at this picture, I made it to the end of the street today, I can't even tell you how many likes I get. So share those with your friends on social media before and after, and I guarantee you that's going to motivate you even more, because you're going to know that you have the support of your family and friends around you. Another thing that I like to do to motivate myself is literally tell my IBD to shut up. When I reach a goal, I stand there for a second and I look down at my stomach and I say, see that Crohn's disease? I did it. Take that. So I know it sounds dorky in a way, but I like to have that feeling of knowing that my Crohn's disease didn't keep me from doing what I set out. And like I said, I literally take the time to look down at my stomach and say, shut up, Crohn's disease. And it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I've taken back a portion of my life. I've taken control and I've done what I set out to do. So take a moment and really, let it out a little bit and tell your IBD that you showed it who's boss, that you made a movement to taking control of your life again and not letting your Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis control you. And like I said, I do this at almost every milestone that I hit, and it really makes me feel good about myself not letting my IBD control my life. If all else fails at this point and I really can't motivate myself and all the other things that I talked about don't work on getting me out of bed or getting me motivated or getting me excited to do whatever I'm setting out to do, is I play my power songs. And we all have a few songs that we know get the blood moving and really get excited and get us excited to do whatever we want to do. So I'm just going to share a few of my power songs. Number one on my list is Fighter by Onerepublic. If you listen to that song, I think it really encapsulates the feeling of motivating yourself and not letting something else control your life. I also like The Man by Aloe Black. It kind of makes me feel like, I'm motivated to take on the world and really take on whatever task that I'm able to do that day. And lastly, Warrior by Imagine Dragons. It kind of really encapsulates the IBD and ostomy community to me, because each and every one of us is a warrior. Each and every one of us is fighting a fight each and every day, and it really gets me excited to know that I'm not alone. So those are the 3 songs that I usually listen to if all of the above or all the other things that I talked about don't work. But get excited, play your power song, and go from there and take that challenge on. If those don't work, today might not be the day that you work out or go outside to exercise, but there's always another day. So don't get discouraged. Go back to the starting gate, go back to the starting line, and really go through these steps again and try to motivate yourself, because one by one, if these don't work, I say, today's not my day. I'm going to go relax on the couch. My body's just not ready. But if I go through this list, normally at some point, something's going to kick in, and I'm going to say to myself, okay, let's get to the gym. Let's train outside. Let's do something that's good for my body. And I get really excited when I go through this list, because it really motivates me to do whatever I have in mind and reach that goal that I want to cross. Another question that I've gotten over the last year or so, and especially the last 6 months, is how I completed a half Ironman with my Crohn's disease and ostomy. And I'm going to be very honest before I start talking about it. It's not for everybody. Half Ironman includes a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike ride, and then a half marathon, a 13.1 mile run at the end. And it's not necessarily for everyone because of IBD or an ostomy, but you also have to be a little bit crazy in your head to do something like this. This is one of the longer endurance activities that you can do, and you have to be a little bit crazy to take on a challenge like this. But it was something that I always wanted to do. I always told myself that if I was a healthy person, I would probably be a triathlete. I really believe that to my heart, and it's something that I wanted to kind of check off my bucket list, as they say, and cross the finish line for a 70.3 half Ironman. And there are a lot of advice that I'm about to go into, and some of them might not necessarily pertain to you because you might not have ideas of doing a triathlon, but you can kind of take them and adjust them to whatever goal you have in mind, whether it be a half marathon, hiking a mountain, or doing any other of a number of activities. So kind of take what I'm about to say, adapt it to what you might want to do, and then go from there. So as I said, a half Ironman consists of a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike ride, and then a 13.1 mile run. And whenever you're taking on an activity of this length, I recommend first thing that you should do is research what you're about to do. And the best place to research is pick out your friends that have done activities like this before and talk to them. There's a good chance the reason why you want to hike a certain mountain or do a triathlon or run a marathon or half marathon, a variety of activities, because you see your healthy friends doing them. And that kind of gets your mind going, wow, what would it be like if I was able to do that? So I had a large group of friends that I knew did triathlons. My friend Dana had actually competed professionally and won a triathlon in Hartford, Connecticut once. So I bounced things off of her. And my friend Lewis and Sally have done full Ironmans, which is a 140.6 mile race. And they've done a handful of half Ironmans. So I really bounced things off of them as well. So research what you're about to do by yourself. And there's obviously a wide variety of areas that you can go into to figure out, tips and advice for whatever activity, but also talk to your friends, the ones that really got you excited about doing this, and hear about their experiences and hear about what might they suggest for you to do if you want to take on the same challenge. And with that said, don't go it alone. You have these friends that you're talking about doing a triathlon or running a marathon or hiking up a certain mountain with. Partner up with them. I worked with Dana, Lewis, and Sally to cross the finish line for the 70.3 half Ironman. And I did a sprint triathlon with my friend Dana. She came up with me to Niantic, and she was basically my coach for the day, kind of really cheering me on and giving me advice when I got to each and every transition. And then Lewis and Sally both helped me out in preparation for the longer distance when I did the 70.3 half Ironman. Lewis even did it with me, and it was really nice to have him there. He helped me set up my transition areas. He got me through the night before when I was a little bit of a nervous wreck, and he really helped me out the morning of when I put on my wetsuit and I looked at the Atlantic Ocean, saw the waves crashing, and said, what am I doing? I'm about to swim 1.2 miles in the ocean with waves and swells and everything else that comes with it. So talk to your friends, research what you're about to do, but also partner up with them, because if Lewis weren't there for that day for the half Ironman, I don't know if I would have finished in the time that I did, 17 minutes faster than my goal. I don't even know if I would have crossed the finish line. It would have been really hard. So the fact that I had a friend there, cheering me on really made a big difference. And my girlfriend Sarah was there, and Lewis's girlfriend Kristen was there. And it really made the entire experience amazing for me, knowing that I had my friends there, the one I partner up with, and also the ones that really wanted to cheer me on. So when doing a triathlon or any activity that has to do with water, it's a little bit intimidating, especially if you have an IBD or ostomy. There's a lot of things that go through your mind. What happens if I drown? What happens if I can't go any further? What happens if I get a leak with my ostomy? And these are all concerns that you have to kind of take into effect and really learn how to deal with. So I actually put off swimming for the triathlon for the longest time. And I always said to myself, oh, it's only a little bit over a mile. Walking a mile isn't that hard. Running a mile is really easy for me. Swimming a mile can't be that difficult, right? It is. This was one of the stupidest things I ever put off. And swimming 1.2 miles is not an easy feat. You really have to train your body, but you also have to just train your body to breathe properly and really get that rhythm with your breathing. Because if you can't breathe right, you're not going to be able to swim a long distance. And I had a lot of friends help me on along the way, but I didn't start swimming for the triathlon until July 4th weekend. And that was only about 2 months away from my half Ironman. And I know what you're thinking right now, Brian, that's insane. And it is. But I wanted to put it off because, I didn't want to put it off, but I put it off because I constantly thought about my ostomy. I hadn't swam with it a lot yet. I got into the pool every once in a while, but I didn't swim long distances or really train in the pool yet. And I didn't know what my ostomy would do. So the first swim that I ever did for the half Ironman was actually an open water swim in Lake George with Lewis. And he said to me, well, we're going to swim out to this peninsula. It was about 3/4 of a mile away, and then swim back. And if I didn't really feel like swimming back, I could always walk around because there's basically an area that you can walk back to the house that we were staying at. And I said, okay, this sounds good. Lewis was actually supposed to go for a run that day in the morning with a friend, and they kind of kept on putting it off. And then finally Lewis said, I don't think we're going to go for a run today. Why don't we go for a swim? And I said, yeah, that sounds good. I haven't swam yet. I should probably get in the water, and, it's an open water swim, which I need to get used to. That sounds good. And in my head the entire time, I said, well, I used to be a good swimmer as a kid. I shouldn't have a problem doing this. Open water swimming is completely different. And later in the day at around noon, when we finally got in the water, the waves were crashing, there was a storm coming in, and the water was really rough. So we had a plan where Lewis and I were going to swim, and there were going to be 2 groups, one in a canoe, one in a kayak, that were going to kind of go right next to us. This way boats in the area could see where we are. And if anything were to happen, if I got tired, I would be able to hop in the canoe, which my girlfriend was actually in. And, I got in the water with a lot of confidence, and very quickly my confidence was killed because the waves were crashing into me. Lewis, who has done this a million times and, is a really good swimmer, just kind of chewed himself straight through the water. And every time I hit a wave, it felt like I was going back 10 feet. I got about 1/3 of a mile of the way out, and I was just exhausted. There was no way I could go any further. So I asked my girlfriend to canoe over to me, and I kind of grabbed on the side of the canoe, waited a little bit, and I said, I'm going to try to do this again. So I kept on swimming. Didn't make much headway, didn't get any further. And I said, I got to get back in the canoe. There's no way this is going to happen. I got onto the side of it, and I kind of held on for a little while. And then obviously the plan was for me to hop in the canoe, and then we'll go back together. Unfortunately, when I tried to hop in the canoe, I almost made it, But then I capsized us. I pulled the canoe over, and it was a disaster. Sarah and I started to hold on to the canoe basically for dear life until we calmed down. We were both drenched, obviously, and she was in a sweatshirt, so it wasn't exactly easy for her because the sweatshirt immediately weighed her down. And we held on to the canoe and tried to figure this out. And I remember looking at each other, and we were both basically laughing about it. We were smiling, and I said to her, if we can get through this, we're going to be able to get through anything. And luckily enough, a stranger who we didn't know saw us kind of flailing in the water and came out with their actual boat and said, "Hey, how are you doing? You guys need help?" And we looked at them and said, "Yeah, we definitely need some help." And they tied the boat to the back, and we got in the motorboat. And oddly enough, Sarah was wearing a Colby sweater, which is where she got her undergraduate degree. And the other gentleman in the boat, his son, went to Kobe as well. So it was a really small world, and everybody kind of had a good laugh, and they towed us back in, and we continued to laugh about it the rest of the day. But open water swimming is really difficult, and it's something that I shouldn't have put off, and something that I learned. And that's just a funny story I wanted to share with you. But I learned from that swimming isn't that bad, because I got back and my ostomy was fine. And then after I did that, I teamed up with my friend Robbie Sherwood, who was my swim coach from there on, basically, and I realized that swimming in the pool is okay. I never had a leak, I never had a problem, and I was able to really start training for the swimming, and I trained almost 4 days a week in the pool until the half Ironman. I really got my breathing down, and I got my strength down, and I nailed the swim on my half Ironman. I did it in 43 minutes, which isn't that bad a time, especially for someone who's new to the sport. But, swimming wasn't easy mentally. It was hard to get over that hurdle. Is my ostomy going to be okay? And if swimming is something you want to do, I highly recommend getting in the pool with somebody and taking it slow. Check your ostomy every once in a while, and slowly you're going to build up confidence. Okay, my ostomy is fine. I just did 4 laps. Okay, I just did 10 laps. My ostomy is still fine. Okay, I did 20 laps. My ostomy is still fine. And you're going to learn that it's okay to be in the pool with an ostomy. I don't recommend getting into the pool with an ostomy that's kind of towards the end of its life. You kind of want to go in the first 2 or 3 days that you have an ostomy when it's still strong and it's really adhering to your body well. But I've never had a problem. I've never had a leak in the pool. Everything's always worked out well. So if swimming is a passion of yours, I recommend just get in the pool, enjoy yourself, and know that everything's going to be all right. You're going to be able to do this, and the ostomy or Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis aren't going to keep you from swimming. Cycling is the next event in a triathlon, and one that I actually took to loving the most. I really like cycling now because I can cover a large amount of territory in a relatively short amount of time. And the bike ride, like I said, for the half Ironman is 56 miles long, and it was beautiful. I was able to cycle through the main countryside, and I saw farms and windmills and rolling hills. It was absolutely beautiful and something I'll always remember. But cycling was tough for me because at this time my rectal disease hadn't healed up yet, and I hadn't healed completely from the surgery, the proctectomy that I started the show out with from August of 2014. I still had problems. I still had a fistula system. I still got abscesses every once in a while, and the surgery just never healed up properly. So I had to find out a way where I could stay on my saddle and ride a bike for a long period of time. And this is where I had to take hours upon hours on the internet and going from store to store, finding a comfortable seat, because as many IBD patients know, rectal disease is horrible. Finding a comfy seat if you're going to go for a cycling ride is very, very important. And I finally found one, and it's actually a woman's seat, I'll be honest, and it's a little bit wider and a little bit more cushioning, and it actually supports my backside more. So it allows me to get on my bike and feel really comfortable with the disease that I had back there and, go for a ride without worrying about it constantly. And the journey didn't end there. I actually had to get a booster cushion above that, which fits my backside even better. And, when my backside is really bad and my butt's really bothering me, I throw this extra cushion on there, and it gives me a little bit of more stabilization for my backside and the bumps that I might hit on a ride. So with the cycling is not easy, especially when you're going for long distances. You have to train your legs, you have to build up your strength, but cycling can be really fun because it's a low impact sport. It doesn't really take a large toll on your body, and if you can find that comfy seat that really allows you to not have to worry about your bike's backside, you're going to have a lot of fun cycling. I mean, it's something that I've learned to love and something that I think everybody loves as a kid, and if you get back into that as an adult, it's even more fun as well, because now you can really take in the scenery, and you're not just excited about going fast, you're taking it all in and really enjoying every moment of it. So I recommend, shopping around, figuring out what the best bike is for you, and then figuring out what the best seat is for you. And once you do that and you're fitted properly, get out there, enjoy the day, go for some long bike rides, and have some fun with it. Running is the third discipline, and running is not easy for a lot of people because it's a high impact sport. You're bouncing up and down, you're hitting concrete constantly, and it can take a real toll on your body, especially for us. I know a lot of other IBDers, and I'm speaking for myself as well. I have a lot of scars, and running hurts my scars quite a bit. When I get back from a long distance run, the couch is the first thing I hit because my body just needs a break. It needs to take some time to recover from that activity, from running a longer distance and the bouncing up and down and the impact that it has. So once again, this gets back to leaning on friends. Something that I did is I called up my friend Katie, who is basically a professional runner almost. She actually placed recently on the podium in California for a run that she did, but she's done so many marathons. She's even done ultra marathons. She can run forever, and she's a real inspiration to me when it came to running. But I called up Katie and I said, what can I do in order to limit the impact and make running more enjoyable? And she gave me some tips just for the mindset, but she also gave me some advice to change my stride. And I basically don't bounce up off the ground anymore and run like you almost see a sprinter go in the Olympics, or you might see other people run along the side of the street and they're healthy and they're really bouncing up and down and propelling themselves forward. Katie gave me advice for a stride where I'm basically kind of keeping my foot low to the ground and almost doing a very fast, long shuffling motion. And it allowed me to limit the impact on my body and really start to enjoy running because I got back from a run and I didn't feel like my body had just been, through a torturous session. I felt well. So talk to somebody who runs a lot, who might have experience with a marathon or half marathon. Adjust your stride. Make sure you have the right running shoe. Running can be enjoyable if you learn it properly, you have the right stride, and you're doing it right for your body. And like I said, that's the most important point I just made. You have to do it right for your body. Listen to your body, make sure that the running isn't too hard, and then go from there. And once you do that, you'll actually possibly be able to enjoy the miles that you put in. So I've basically covered the 3 disciplines that go into triathlons. And, we have swimmers out there, we have cyclists out there, we have runners out there who have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis or an ostomy. You can separate those and take the advice that I gave into whatever activity that you like to do, or you can put them all together and go out there and try a triathlon yourself. But like I said, the biggest key is to make sure you're prepared for any of these activities. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Talk to your friends and then prepare from there for it. So another thing that goes hugely with doing a triathlon is nutrition. And you're going to have to figure out what works best for you in order to stay hydrated and in order to have the right nutrition in to get you through the day, which is, roughly going to be around 6 hours for most people. For me, it was 6 hours and 43 minutes. For others, it's more than 7 hours for a half Ironman. So you need to figure out the proper nutrition. At all the transition areas, I had a quick snack that I would be able to wolf down and get some actually solid nutrition in me. But I also, throughout the day, kept a little cooling bag at my transition, and I had a water-based protein shake that really works well for me. It's easy on my stomach, it gets all the nutrients in my body. I'm getting protein, I'm getting fat, I'm getting carbohydrates, and it also keeps me hydrated for these events. So you kind of have to play around with it, and I suggest keeping a food journal for training alone. And a lot of IBD patients keep a food journal just to know what hurts their stomach and what might be trigger foods, but I highly recommend keeping a food journal just for training alone because your body is going to react completely differently when you're training for these endurance activities. So keep a food journal just for these activities and kind of figure out what's best for you. A water-based protein shake might work well, a different type of hydration system might work well, or a different type of food might work well. So figure it out yourself, know what's best for your body, what's going to work for you to get the nutrition in, and then you'll feel a lot more confident to take on this activity and take on this endurance event. Last piece of advice that I would give anybody is foam rolling and stretching. And I was never good at stretching until I was about 32 years old. I would not stretch after exercising or doing any activity because I just told myself I didn't need to do it. And whenever you talk to somebody who has a little bit more wisdom in this world, they always look back and tell you, I really wish I stretched more at a younger age and I wouldn't have the back problems I had or some of the other achy joints that I had. And I finally took this into account when I turned 32 and started doing these crazy triathlons. And foam rolling really allows you to break down the muscle a little bit more and allow for a larger amount of blood flow, which will allow you to recover faster. And I thought this was very key for me because if I didn't stretch or if I didn't foam roll, the next day I would feel horrible, not just because of this training, but also because of my IBD. Everything just kind of built on top of each other. But I got into the routine of foam rolling right after the activity and then foam rolling right before bed. This way, I got my blood going and I was able to kind of recover a little bit faster, which is key because I would wake up the next morning and not be absolutely exhausted and not be absolutely sore. And even my joints felt better just from the stretching and all the foam rolling that I was doing. So even though some people hate to stretch, including me, and foam rolling can be torturous at times, it's downright painful, it's a must. So if you're going to do any of these endurance activities, I highly recommend setting some time aside and making sure that you foam roll and stretch because it'll allow you to recover faster, allow you to take the next day's training session on, and allow you just to feel better in general going throughout the day. All of these tips are together what I did in order to prepare for the half Ironman. And, if anybody ever wants to reach out to me, you can reach me at Brian IIF on Twitter. Shoot me a question. I'm happy to answer them all. But these are kind of the steps that I went through in order to get through that day physically. But mental hurdles are something that come into play as well. And it's tough when you're doing these endurance activities, how to get through these mental hurdles. And I talked about some of them earlier when you're just trying to start to get training going. And it's not easy. So I'm not going to go through the long list that I did earlier, but some of the things that I had happen to me when I was training for the half Ironman are difficult, but I found my way through them. The first thing I had happen was I was tired. Fatigue hit me sometimes horribly, and I allowed myself to be fatigued those days. If I got back from a training session and I was exhausted, I gave myself some time to lay down on the couch, relax, and recuperate. And I didn't get down on myself for being tired because I'm training for a half Ironman. Of course my body's going to be tired. A healthy person's body is going to be tired. So I really allowed myself mentally to be okay with the fact that I was going to be tired. The next thing is, like I said earlier, get excited for what's ahead. Try to envision what it's going to be like running down a chute with people on both sides of you and cheering and yelling your name and having the guy on the PA yell out, Brian Greenberg, you're about to become a half Ironman. It's really exciting for that kind of stuff to happen. So try to get through the mental hurdles by thinking of what it's going to be like to finish that race. Like I said earlier, also know that you have a great support network around you that's going to be really happy about what you're doing and really happy for you no matter what the outcome, whether you finish in 5 hours, whether you finish in 7 hours. They're going to be happy that you crossed the finish line for whatever endurance activity that you're doing. Lastly, and this kind of gets back to what I said earlier of not allowing your IBD to control your life and telling it to shut up, don't let your Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or ostomy bring you down. It's going to happen at times. You're going to feel like not training. You're going to feel like today's just not the day, and that's okay. There's always another day to train. There's always another day to get back out there, but it's your job to bring yourself back up. It's your job to get yourself motivated again and not let one bad day turn into a week or not let a week turn into a month. Bring yourself back up. Find a way to get motivated, whether it be a friend, whether it be a video, whether it be a song. Bring yourself back up and don't let Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or the ostomy control your life, because once you get out there and you do these things, I can tell you from personal experience, you are going to feel amazing. You are going to feel like you could take on the world, and there's no better feeling than knowing your Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, or ostomy didn't keep you from crossing the finish line. The feeling you're going to have is one that's incredible, and I'd love to hear about it. I just said my Twitter a little while ago, but remember, tweet at me at BrianIIF. Please, if you cross the finish line for any of these, I'd love to hear about the feelings that you had when you crossed the finish line and share them with everybody else, because it is an amazing feeling and one that you will never forget for the rest of your life. Okay, this is my favorite part of the show when I get to answer some of your questions that have been submitted via social media. Please remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just do a quick search for Intense Intestines. I'm sure we'll pop us and give us a follow or a like, and we'll be able to hear your questions. You'll be able to submit them before we do these podcasts. So our first question today comes from Michelle, and she asks, how do you prevent a leak when swimming or sweating with an ostomy? Excellent question, Michelle, and one that I know a lot of IBD patients might have if they're thinking about getting an ostomy, and one that a lot of ostomy patients might have as well. And first off, I wouldn't suggest doing any of these activities if your ostomy is a little bit older to its life cycle, 4, 5, 6 days, because then you're just not going to feel confident, and the chances for a leak are a little bit higher. But I've always found if I swim or do any of these activities on the first 3 days of my ostomy, it feels really good and I've never had a problem. And to be honest, I actually find that my ostomy is strongest when I go swimming on the second or third day because I've already showered, and blow drying it really makes the adhesive stick to your body really well. So I've always found on the second or third day my ostomy stays even better. So the most important thing also is to just keep an eye on it. Let your confidence grow. Like I said, you're going to do 4 laps, you're going to realize it's fine. You're going to do 10 laps, you're going to realize it's fine. Then you're going to do 20 laps, everything's going to be okay. So you kind of just have to build your confidence up to know that if you have a fresh ostomy on, swimming and sweating and doing these activities with an ostomy is not a problem. Get in there, have fun, enjoy a swim, enjoy an activity that you're doing, and the likelihood of a leak happening is probably slim. Our next question comes from Destiny, and Destiny, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but your question is, when can I start working my stomach muscles out after a surgery? I think a lot of people have this question, Destiny, after surgery, and thank you so much for asking it. I think this is very personal, but as I said earlier, when you're starting to train, the biggest thing is to take it slow, especially with the core muscles. When I first get back into the gym after a surgery, I really don't work my core muscles. I do machines that stabilize my body that allow me to work my shoulders, my back, or my chest, or my legs without engaging those core muscles yet. And even though you're not targeting them specifically, you're still using them a little bit, and that kind of builds up your strength. Then once you really feel confident and you talk to your surgeon, that's when you might want to start working out your core again. And like I said, take it slow. There's no reason to go from 0 to 100 miles per hour. If you're trying to lose weight, you're not going to have abs in a week. If you're trying to just gain core strength for an activity, you're not going to have an amazing core in just a week. Take it slow, build up your muscles slowly, because the last thing you want is to have a herniated scar area or something happen and end up in the hospital again. So listen to your body, especially if you've had these diseases for a while. You should have a really good idea of when your body is ready and when you can get back into the gym and possibly work out your core. But like I said, don't go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Try to take it slow and figure out what your body can do. And as you go along, set these little goals up for, I'm going to do this stomach exercise, then I'm going to do this stomach exercise, then I'm going to do this stomach exercise, and celebrate each goal along the way, but take it step by step. This way you don't injure yourself. Our next question comes from Jason. Jason asks, do you take any supplements before you exercise or throughout the day? Excellent question, Jason, and one that I think a lot of IBD patients might have because it's important to get extra nutrients in our body. To be honest, I don't take any of the pre-exercise or pre-workout supplements like nitro or any of those because the caffeine and everything that goes in those gets our body a little bit too amped up, and to be honest, they're not good for your stomach. I even have a friend that used to take those on a regular basis, and he used to bleed on a regular basis with his ulcerative colitis, and then all of a sudden he stopped it. A week later, he called me up and said, you know what? The bleeding went away. I said, what'd you do differently? He said, I stopped my pre-workout nitro routines and everything. So I stay away from those, but I do find if you like a certain protein shake, especially if it's water-based and it's easy to digest, enjoy that. Drink that before you get into the gym. Let your body absorb those nutrients. I even drink it during my workout and then throughout the day because it keeps me really hydrated. But find the one that works best for you, Jason, and then go from there. Once again, it's a learning process. Everybody's a little bit different with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, so you have to figure out what supplement might work for you. But stay away from certain items which are hard for healthy people to digest. Find the right ones that's good for you, and then go from there. The next question comes from David, and David asks, should you be cautious about putting too much effort into a workout? Perfect question for so many IBDers days, and thank you so much for asking. And I always tell people not to work out too hard. You don't want to work out to failure, because if you work out to failure, your body's just going to reject whatever you're doing, especially with us because we have these diseases. Like I said earlier, the old adage, no pain, no gain, doesn't really work for us because we don't want to put too much stress on our bodies. Our immune systems are already working extra. Our bodies are already working extra. So don't push yourself too hard. You want to push yourself a little bit because if you're not, there's no real reason to work out. You're lifting weights, you're doing cardio for a reason, but don't go to that point of failure because if you do that, your body's going to reject the activity. You're not going to be able to recover and it's just going to make you feel even worse. So push yourself a little bit, but don't push yourself too hard. The next question comes from Sharon, and Sharon asks, I've been told if you're bleeding, you should not lift heavy objects, etc. Is this true? Excellent question, Sharon. I actually have some really good experience with this because I've worked out with open wounds after certain surgeries, and they have stopped bleeding, and my doctor has always given me clearance, which you have to get. If your doctor says you shouldn't work out because of an open wound or bleeding, don't do it. Listen to him. Rest up. There's always another day once you recover. But if you're bleeding a small amount or if you have a little bit of an open wound and it's at that point of stabilization, you can start to lift a little bit. You can start to work out a little bit. I wouldn't suggest lifting heavy objects, but as I said earlier in some of my tips, if you can find a machine that really stabilizes your muscles and stabilizes your body and doesn't allow you to hurt that area where you might be bleeding or you might be recovering from a surgery, you can probably lift a little bit. But once again, get advice from your doctor, get clearance from your doctor, and then go from there. Figure out a workout routine with machines, and you'll be okay. Our next question comes from Cassandra, and Cassandra asks, I've been dealing with weakness for some time from various reasons. Any helpful tips for stretching or gaining strength? So many IBDers are affected by weakness and fatigue, Cassandra, so excellent question, one that, I deal with on a regular basis as well. First, obviously, we kind of just have to find a way to get ourselves going in the morning. I love to stretch. I have started to do yoga a little bit, but I definitely need to get better. I will be honest, the only real pose that I'm great at right now when it comes to yoga is corpse pose. Every time the instructor says get down to corpse pose, I nail it and I feel great about it. If any of you yoga, people know what I'm talking about. That's basically just lying on the ground in your stomach and relaxing. So I know anybody can nail that, but stretching and gaining a little bit of strength is really key. And if it gets your blood flowing, you'll probably feel a little bit less weakness and the fatigue will go away slowly. You're going to still have those days where you're feeling fatigued and when you're really tired, but stretching will allow you to get that blood flowing and slowly gain some strength and get you into a routine, which hopefully will allow you to do other things, Cassandra. Our last question of the day comes from Michael, and Michael asks, how do you motivate yourself? Michael, excellent question, and one that I know I've talked about a little bit today, and sometimes we just need that little bit of extra push. And for me, I'm always been able to do this myself, but some people need, a friend around, someone to get you out of bed, someone to say, okay, we're going to the gym this morning, we're going to do this workout, we're going to get through it together. Some people might not need that, but I always like to set goals. And like I said earlier, we kind of have to set goals step by step so then we can reach them, celebrate the goals that we reach, and then go on to the next one. You don't want to set a goal too far ahead to the point where you're going to fail. Like I said, if you say to yourself, okay, I'm just getting out of a flare, I'm going to do a marathon in 9 months, it's probably not going to happen. You're not going to be able to see the progress. But set little goals. And I've always said to myself and other people, each and every goal that you set starts with one step. And that one step is key. Whether your goal be just getting out of bed and going for a walk around the house, whether your goal be walk around the neighborhood with the dog, or going for a run, or getting to the gym, or doing a half Ironman or a half marathon, whatever your goal is, it starts with one step. So start with that step today. Get out of bed, do what you want to do, show your IBD who's boss, tell it to shut up, and take control of your life again. And once you start to do that and you realize that you're controlling your life and Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis aren't controlling it anymore, that's going to motivate you. That's going to get you excited to do your activity, and you're going to feel great, Michael. So start with that one step, make a goal, and go from there. And I know you're going to do it. Let me know when you do. I want to hear about it when you cross those finish lines and you reach those goals. Let me know how you celebrate as well, because we're going to be really excited for you. Well, that concludes the third episode of the We Will Beat IBD podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you got some good advice and tips with regards to exercising with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and or an ostomy. I'm always here to help. Like I said, you can reach me on Facebook and Twitter. Brian IIF on Twitter is my handle. Also, do a quick search for Intense Intestines, like I said, on any social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You'll be able to find us, follow us there for motivational tips and some other stories that we share as well. I hope you enjoyed this show, and remember, check us out on iTunes and Stitcher, where you can subscribe to the We Will Beat IBD podcast. This way, as soon as we upload a new show, you will get the latest updates. As well as you can listen to the podcast on our website at www.intenseintestines.org/podcast. All the episodes are there. You can download them or stream them, whichever way you'd like to listen to them. And we really hope you take advantage of some of the shows that we have. Our next show is going to be later this month. We're going to be talking with Laura Cox of Shield Healthcare, and we're going to be discussing relationship with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and ostomies, as well as the exciting part is we're going to have both of our partners are going to be on as well. She has a great boyfriend named Ryan who's going to be joining us. My girlfriend Sarah is going to be joining us as well, and it's going to be a really exciting show talking about just relationships in general, a little bit of intimacy, and how we've all dealt with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and having an ostomy. So I really look forward to that show being the next one. Thank you so much for listening today. I had a great time. I hope you got some advice and tips as well. Together, we can do amazing things. Together, we will beat IBD. Remember again, before changing anything with regards to your daily treatment and activities, consult your medical professional team.